going to be showing you one of my favorite series, Ivy and Bean. Let's get to it. This is my Ivy and Bean series. I've talked about this series in the past because it's one of my favorite book series. And today, I decided I am going to review all of the ones I have for you. Well, there's actually 11 books in the series, but I have 8 already, and I would love to get the other 3. For those who don't know or who are not familiar with the Ivy and Bean book series, it's about 2 best friends, Ivy and Bean, who go on amazing adventures together. Each book is a different adventure. This book series is by Annie Barrows and Sophie Blackall. Here's the first book. It's called Ivy plus Bean. In this book, it tells you about how they met. Ivy and Bean's parents are telling them they should play together, but Ivy thinks Bean is a little too adventurous, and Bean thinks Ivy's a little too serious. From the moment they saw each other, Bean and Ivy knew they would never be friends. However, when Bean tries to play a mean trick on her sister, she has to hide before she gets in trouble. So Ivy tells her a good hiding place. In this first book, you can see how they become friends and how they figure out they really have more in common than they think. This is where it all started. The second book is called Ivy plus Bean and the Ghost That Had to Go. In this book, Ivy and Bean find a ghost in their schoolgirl's bathroom. I explained this book in more detail in my previous episode. If you want to find out more about this book, go check that video out. The third book in the series is called Ivy plus Bean Break the Fossil Record. In this book, Ivy and Bean receive a book about world records from their favorite teacher, Mrs. Arubatate. When Ivy and Bean read it, they figure out about so many cool world records. Then they come up with silly ways on how to make their own world records. Like, they try to fit 100 straws into Bean's mouth, and they try singing so loud that they break glass. Then they figure out they can break the fossil record. When they do that, they dig up bones. You can figure out if they actually find real dinosaur bones in this book. This is the fourth book. It is called Ivy plus Bean Take Care of the Babysitter. In this book, Ivy and Bean are playing with their friends in a mound of dirt. Then Bean's mom says Bean has to come home because Bean's mom and Bean's dad are going somewhere. Then Bean figures out Nancy, her big sister, who she does not like, by the way, has to be her babysitter. But Bean doesn't like it at all, so she locks herself in her room and calls Ivy out her room window. And Ivy and Bean try to hatch a plan to get Bean out of her room. You can follow their amazing hiding adventure until Nancy hears a scream coming from the attic. What do you think happened? The next book is the 5th book in the series. It's called Ivy plus Bean Bound to Be Bad. In this book, Bean finds Ivy in Ivy's yard, smiling and holding her arms up to the sky. Ivy says she's trying to be good because she read a story about a man who was so good that animals followed him everywhere. Then Bean and Ivy try to be good. But Ivy says that since Bean is getting so bored of being just good, they can pretend Bean is bad, and Ivy helps Bean be good again, so the birds will come to her for her pure heart. But that doesn't work. So now everybody on the street starts being bad. Bean is a little too mean to Dino, the little brother of the worst 10-year-old on the street. And so Dino gets revenge by making his brother tie Ivy and Bean to a tree and spray them with a hose. Eventually, they break free and Bean goes playing with her friends and becomes good again. The 6th book in the series is called Ivy plus Bean, Doomed to Dance. In this book, Ivy's aunt sends Ivy and Bean a book about ballet. And when they reading the book, they realize they want to take ballet. So they beg their parents if they can go to a ballet studio. But on one condition. They get to go there only if they do it for one whole session. 4 months, 1 recital, no complaining, no whining. But as soon as they start dancing, they realize they don't like it at all. In the book that they saw, there was some people dressing up in really cool costumes and they thought that was all about it. But they got really bored when their dance teacher started talking about all the positions. Then they have to do a recital, but they get the worst part. They have to be squid and they're just doing this in the background. You can figure out if they actually have to be squids in the dance recital. The 7th book in the series is called Ivy plus Bean. What's the big idea? In this book, in Ivy and Bean's school, they have to figure out a way to cool down the planet. Some kids are holding their breath for the longest, and some are making signs saying, "Don't leave the light on," or "Don't throw garbage into the earth." But what should Ivy and Bean do? Should they do something with ropes? Ice cubes? You can see what project they want to do in the end. The last book in the series that I have is book number 8, Ivy plus Bean. No news is good news. In this book, Ivy and Bean need some money. Well, $10 to be exact, for cheese. I know it sounds like the most ridiculous thing in the world, but trust me, they have a good reason. It's because the cheese that they want have like this modeling clay on the outside that's wrapping around it, and they really just want to sculpt it into different characters. And they make the money by selling newspapers around their town or around their neighborhood. But their friends get really mad that they're keeping all the cheese to themselves. And Ivy and Bean play a little trick on them and Bean's dad in the end. Since I got the 8-book series, it came with this cool activity book about Ivy and Bean. It's called Ivy plus Bean plus Me, a fill-in-the-blank book. And it asks you funny questions, and you can answer them in the book. And also, it tells you a bunch of fun games to do so you're not bored around your house. A few of the ideas that they have is make yourself a mystery. It's when you hide things around your house and you have to see if other people notice that you switch them. Another activity you could do is called Buried Treasure. You could get a little bag and bury it with cool treasures in your backyard. Then make a map for it and hide it somewhere in your house for future kids that live in your house to find it. It's super fun. In the fill-in-the-blank portion, here are some of the questions that they ask you. One is called, "When I get in trouble, my grown-ups take away," and then you can check mark all the answers that you will pick. Another one is, "If I could have anything I wanted, my room would look like this." And then you would draw your room in the space that they put in the book. There are other questions like your favorite babysitter and the thing that your babysitter lets you do that your parents don't. I don't have a babysitter, so I wrote, "I don't have one." Like I said, this is one of my favorite book series. I recommend these books for kids who are just starting to read chapter books and for kindergartners or first graders. If you're a little older, these are still really cool adventures to read, and I think you would really enjoy them. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are interested in the Ivy plus Bean series, I will leave the links down below so you can check them out. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to tune in next week and smash that subscribe button and like my videos. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye! Oh, a million dreams for the world we're gonna make.